finish, on which the DDL which was generated, the SQL file which was generated, the code gets executed on the target database which is selected. And the results are again available for you to see on the results tab, SQL results tab. So you know which objects are getting registered and which ones are not. Right? So that's fairly straightforward. You have DDLs and all your business logic, user-defined functions, stored procedures, all of them taken care by the evaluation and conversion engine. The next step is obviously how do I move my data. So again, DCW provides you with these various options for moving data. You can move data from, you can extract data into flat files from Oracle and then move it. Or you can also use something called as pipes, which is a mechanism which is used for bulk amount of data. And you can use the load options which are there, load data from flat files using DCW, or you can manually load the data as well, which we don't recommend because the tool itself is pretty efficient in loading data. So again, there's another wizard that you walk through for loading data and extracting data from Oracle. And while again loading data, you do not need to load all of the data. You can be selective about the data that you want to move. You can choose data again schema by schema. So it will list all the schemas that are available in Oracle, and you can choose one of them that you want to move. And then basically the number of threads, because it can do data loading in parallel. And you can also generate scripts if you want the DB to load scripts to be preserved for later use. The wizard allows you to generate those scripts. Talking about the usage of pipes, it's something that is recommended for bulk data movement when you have a data warehouse sort of an environment, and when you don't want to have the data files created on the file system, but just move them through programs without any temporary storage being occupied. That's when you can make use of the use pipe option. All you need to do is just check the particular checkbox, and it will make use of the pipes, and it will not create any temporary files. Talking about loading data from flat files, again, if you have moved data from Oracle, you have exported data into flat files, there is a load data wizard that allows you to load data from those flat files, and should just be a matter of establishing connection with DB2 and pointing it to the right DDL file, SQL file, and the data gets loaded inside DB2, right? Again, once you've loaded the data, because it's IBM Data Studio environment, you can just right-click on in the Data Source Explorer on the connection that you have established for the database and refresh the connection so that the newly populated data is visible in the wizard. Once you refresh and when you go to a particular target table, you can just say right-click on the table and say return all rows, and it should show you all the records that are inserted inside that table in the SQL results tab. Something that you would do in any case when you're using IBM Data Studio. It should be a fairly easy task. Now, that's the overall process for converting your application or database code, which is in Oracle, to DB2. Special mention about the estimation engine, which I mentioned that it's not something that we distribute because there is a heuristic that IBM applies based on the prior experience, and that heuristic is not something that we would like to share with the external world. And yeah, so if you really want to get an effort estimation as to what is the number of man hours that I'm going to spend on this activity, you can very well get in touch with the IBM team or one of us. We have a whole bunch of people worldwide who carry out this task day in and day out, and this is the subject matter experts on this, and they will be able to give you the right guidance as to what is the kind of effort that you're looking at for enabling your application. And believe me, we have seen that most of the application enablements have been done in a matter of weeks. Something that used to be done as a project for half year or 1 year, now we can do it in a matter of weeks. We have done few migrations which have done in a matter of 2 to 4 weeks. So what we're talking about, in a month's time, you have an application up and running on Oracle, on DB2, which was earlier running on Oracle. Also, like I mentioned, package visualizer, it helps us reveal the dependencies between various database objects. It helps us isolate some of the database objects. Let's say if there's a problem creating object, object which is pretty complex, which cannot be readily moved onto DB2, and if you want to isolate it, it's important to know what are the other objects which are going to be impacted because of the isolation. That's when, again, package visualizer comes in really handy and helps us determine the scope of project, the scope of the work that we're looking at. And again, it's something which is accessible in the DB2 Object Explorer view. Yeah, here is a snapshot of how it looks. So what we have done here is we have picked up a function called count projects. So when we just right click on the function and we say show us the package visualization, it shows that, okay, it's talking to, or it's reading information, or maybe writing information to two different tables, employee and accounts table. So it's fairly easy to visualize that, okay, if one particular object is impacted, what are the other things that are going to be impacted eventually. So it's really a great tool to make use of. Right? So far I mentioned about Oracle migration and moving database from Oracle to DB2, but yeah, DCW, the tool that we have, also allows us to upgrade DB2 from earlier versions of DB2, which is 9.7 and prior, to DB2 10.1. Again, the process is pretty much similar, except that you don't really have to worry about a lot of conversion because it is DB2 code which is going to be moved eventually. But yes, for DB2 scale, for moving from DB2 standalone to DB2 pure scale, there is a compatibility report and there is a compatibility assessment which is done, because the compatibility report will tell you what are the features of existing DB2 environment that can be run on pure scale environment also, because pure scale is a different environment, slightly different environment, sophisticated one, but yet not all the features which are supported in DB2 as of now are supported on DB2 pure scale. So it's going to generate a compatibility report. You will take a look at the report, and based on, if you see that compatibility is still okay with you, then you go ahead with the actual exercise. So yeah, DB2 migration is something that you would want to try as well if it's a matter of moving from standalone to DB2 pure scale. Now, that's pretty much what I had on DCW. So the next step is for people who are curious to know about and try it hands-on, because the best way is to get your hands dirty and start working on it. So I shared a couple of download links, one for the database conversion workbench itself. But please remember that this is in form of a plugin, so there are prerequisites. You will need IBM Data Studio Full Client 3.1.1, and you need to have an update of the software development kit. And once you have that, you're good to go. And there is also a link for downloading the trial version of DB2 10.1. Again, it's free of cost for probably 90 days. You can make use of that and exploit all the valuable features that DB2 has to offer. So with that, I conclude my talk.